I don't know. It's all shaved on the sides. All shaved. It's kind of peeking.
Yeah, the sides are all shaved.
All right. Well, we are actually live now. So, and we got a little bit of that beautiful, let's see here, conversation about the Mohawk, I think.
I love my face in the freeze frame, just like, that's lovely.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I
Now,
can
Reed,
read
are you actually with us tonight?
I am not. So that's what I was going to say is I cannot be with you all tonight, but I feel very grateful that you guys are able to step in and do some stuff, and stoked that Patrick, one of our top patrons, can join us tonight. I know he will finally be able to put the debate that is Atlanta the second best team right now. So we can.
Oh wait, we having that conversation this week? Oh jeez.
You guys do whatever you want to. I just thought that'd be funny. And to mention that, let's see. I'm trying to see if I can change the title of the recording right now, and I don't see it, but I'm not even going to worry about it because I'll just fix all that later. People know what's up as I'm trying to get this all set. So we've got 3 watching right now. I'm going to share this stuff out on social, and I'll let you guys get started. What you want, just send me a text message when you all are finished, and I'll come in and stop the recordings and the streamings and stuff. So get all this set up. URL, submit, and feel free to, don't have to listen to me. You can talk to whoever's in chat.
It's interesting looking at the YouTube. It's like not focused like in center. It's like this got like my face, and then like it has like bits of everyone. It's weird. Is anyone else looking at that?
I thought it looked okay to me. Oh no, it is kind of centered on you, isn't it? Let's see.
I mean, as it should be.
As it should be. Is that what you said? Let's see here.
As it should be. Now that I'm hosting tonight, clearly it's all. It's me on me. Wow, now you have like you have screen inception.
That was awesome.
Sorry. Well, so I don't have the dual monitors right now, so I'm trying to see. I'll once I log myself out, I'll play around with it a little bit. So apologies to all the listeners out there who are.
Apologies to JoJo and Dan who are watching us work through this.
As long the less people see me, the better off they'll be. So it's good. Got that purple haze tonight, Mike.
Oh, very, very good. I just have a plain Coke tonight. I don't have anything. So you're drinking a Louisiana beer. I'm drinking an Atlanta product. So it's like a weird shade. Hello, Shannon. What else we got? Alright, why don't y'all start posting in some questions, because I've already seen a few on Twitter with people wanting to know what the heck to do this week. It's the international break. So much fun.
Yeah, Reed asked me about coming on tonight. I'm like, sweet, yeah, international break. This is going to be an easy week. And then I saw freaking call-up reports, and I'm like, there's nobody left.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those rounds that actually has a lot of variance in it, so this could be fun.
I actually think so too. Is it Hype Fantasy? It was like, oh, this is a good generic way you cannot be able to move. I'm like, oh no, there's a lot of ways you. Because it's going to be weird, and if you can get the weirdness right, you're going to have.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. The social links have been shared. Please do get those shared out. I've shared the social links, so please do feel free to share those. They're on Reddit. Share it on Twitter, wherever you can, to encourage people to come and join for live chat tonight. I am not going to be able to join us, but I leave you in the very capable hands of my partners in fantasy, Michael Denton and Blaine Riffle, and then our special guest Patrick from Patreon that I know Mike will get into more of the introduction later on when the show actually starts. So you all have a fantastic night tonight, and get this good info, because it may be a small week, but I know there's still lots of stuff packed into this. So I guess I can leave this call without it ending. We'll see.
We'll find out.
We'll find out how that works, and then maybe you guys will have to redo it. But it'll look fun for you guys. I won't actually leave the computer until it's all looking good. So let's find out. I don't think that worked. No, that did not work. That did not work at all.
Yeah, it worked for us, but not for YouTube.
No, it did not, because I'm streaming from my screen, so I still got to leave you guys right there. So let me get this video size sorted out. Let's see here. Settings, output. Can't change that right now. So let's do, there we go. Shrink. This is what it's all about for that beautiful content. Okay, I think this might have it. Let's see what we have here. As it catches up, it's not too far behind. It's not too far behind.
Okay.
All right, here we go. I think this is it. So let's see here. What kind of, I guess I'll just put a little, well, I can let you all view the background if you want, or I can put this, I can move this down maybe. What is least distracting for everybody? If I tape something over?
You need to put like one of your Star Wars action figures in your seat, and you just have to stare at the Star Wars action. Like if you have like a little Thrawn or something.
I do have a little.
Yeah, there we go.
Let's see if we can just maybe get this. Will he balance right there?
Perfect.
Let's see if that does it. Okay, let me start this recording. I just got to record it on my system. And yeah, go ahead. Okay, it's recording to YouTube. So, all right, you guys are good. Have fun. Let me know when you're finished, and I'll get everything put together.
All right, sounds good. Take care, Reed. All right.
Now that he's gone, I can say this. I hope all of our viewers don't get hopeful here. Thrawn being the master tactician he is, you have much better picks than Reed.
This episode has too much Star Wars, just joking. That's not something to joke about, JoJo. No. You're going to joke about that, you're going to get more Star Wars. Alright, well, let us get started. Anybody have any questions real quick before we get started?
Did you send out a rundown, Mike?
I did. I thought I sent it to you. Possible I didn't. I did.
I just didn't get it. Yet.
Okay. Everyone has an echo as if you were 5 people each except for Reed. Oh, that's not. Well, Reed walked away, so I don't think there's anything I can do to fix it now. Is it better now, shit? He's crying, so I'm assuming it is not fixed.
Echo test. Let's see. Are we getting an echo still?
No, but it's all good. Alright, well, Well, we'll go and. I mean, I'm not getting an echo from any of y'all, so hopefully it's at least good on the recording. Is anyone else having that issue echoing on you? Yes, echo still echoes. Alright, well, I troubleshoot with. What are y'all's questions for this week? Maybe y'all can put in who is the second best team in MLS right now, so we can occupy ourselves while we have that fight. Who's the second best team in MLS, and why is it FC Cincinnati? Who's the 8th best team in MLS? Probably FC Dallas.
That's fair.
Don't mind me.
Alright, let me know if that fixed echo problems, guys. On the Paxton and Reggie Cannon. Well, Paxton didn't play, didn't he? He didn't start this weekend again. What is up with someone needs to tell me. That almost screwed up my show league, Matt. Pax Mama for not starting. Echo gone. Perfect. Alright.
It was Reed's fault.
Usually is. Alright, Blaine, did you get the rundown? You'll get the
Yeah, I got the rundown.
Perfect. Alright. Hello and welcome to the 2019 MLS Fantasy Insider Podcast, our review of Round 26 and preview of Round 27. This episode is brought to you by Red Dots, now available on a fantasy player near you. No. Actually, it's brought to you by MLSFantasyBoss.com and the awesome subreddit community of r/fantasymls. I'm your host, Michael Denton, and tonight I'm joined by my regular co-host, Blaine Riffle. Reed is taking care of some family business tonight, but we are still live on YouTube. And we're joined by our Patreon supporter and frequent chat commentator, Patrick Smith. How are y'all doing tonight?
I'm good.
Good.
And I should also mention, if you are on YouTube, you note that we are also joined by Grand Admiral Thrawn. So if you want to see Grand Admiral Thrawn, come join us on YouTube. Hopefully we get some strategic picks from him to help out our tactics. So we just finished round 26. It was a double game week. Although for the most part, it didn't feel like a double game week because it was most of a double game week dud. How did y'all's teams do? And while y'all talk about that, hopefully everyone in chat can start posting their. So I'll start with you, Blaine. How'd you do?
I got an 87 this week. Not great, all things considered, but I did hit the captain pick with Titer. I just went ahead and went with the double game week pick, and considering we were talking about possibly the Vela replacement or Carlos Gil as a second option, I will take his 11 doubled for 22 compared to a 5 and a 3 that I was looking at with Rossi as a potential other captain. I mean, I had Reyna on the bench, and I completely missed the Dallas lineup, and I had Ferreira and Ziegler in there, but I had the money to bring in Hollingshead for one of my scrubs and replace Nerwinski, and to upgrade Ferreira to Adrianowski or however you pronounce that. And I just missed that lineup being at a friend's 50th birthday party. And I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything, but had I done that, my week would have been a lot more salvageable, and I probably wouldn't be sitting at $399 overall right now.
How about you, Patrick?
Had a 108 this week. Had the Ty Dare captain too. did not have Yordi Reyna, which ended up hurting me because my other mids that I went with were Lapalainen and Maxime Morales with a 5 and a 4 on them, which did not help near as much as Yordi Reyna's would have, but still a 108. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I was surprised because I didn't have Yordi Reyna either. And Yordi Reyna was one of the two players from Double Game Week teams that actually made the Dream Team this week. And I had neither of those players, the other one being Rudy, which I don't think a whole lot of people had a Rudy. But I still did okay with 110, and mostly it was Dallas and Sporting Kansas City players that saved me. I had dropped Reyna for Russell. And I mean, Reyna would have been the better choice, but Russell got 11, so that's not too bad. I had Smith, who got 13, and then a bunch of Dallas players. I had Andrasek with 11, Barrios for 10, and Hollingshead for 9. So that was pretty much the core of my team. I mean, the good thing is I also did have Bush, who got 11 points, mostly off the strength of that PK. Not a bad week for me. I've actually kind of gone up. I'm up to overall 585, which is kind of salvaging another terrible start to the season for me. But in the heads to heads, I also got to win in our experts host league. I defeated Morris 110 to 82. Blaine, you actually got a draw with McPherson 87 to 87. That doesn't happen too often. And then Reed beat Older Goaler 107 to 100. So I know Reed will be happy and will want me to brag on him, but I won't because he's not here and he has to be here for me to actually brag. So what were some surprises that y'all had for this week? For me, it was the double game weeks being really, really bad. I was expecting a lot more of Montreal, especially in that second game against DC, but DC's form being low, and Montreal having 2 home games. But what about y'all?
I kind of expected the bad double game week just because of the two teams that were on doubles. I think DC actually showing up for a game was a pretty big surprise this week, considering the form they've had recently. And then, of course, Minnesota just acting like LAFC was not the second best team in MLS.
What about you, Blake?
I mean, let's just go with the obvious one. Minnesota went into LA minus Carlos Vela and got a 2-0 win. I mean, I think I saw the stats on that one. It was like 800 completed passes for LA and 200 and something, 280 for Minnesota in that game. Like LA just bossed that game, but couldn't find the shots, couldn't put them in. I don't know if that's credit to Minnesota's defense and having a really good game plan, or LA's just lack of being clinical in the final third. I mean, with Blessing, with Atuesta, with Rossi, with Diamande, I mean, you'd expect to see at least one goal with 800-something passes, and I don't know how many shots in this game. But that surprises both ways. I think that's a big statement for both teams. I think it brings a lot of doubt to the mind of a lot of fantasy managers heading into this game with LAFC playing on the road here if Vela's not healthy to return, and makes me wonder down the stretch if Vela's injury, if they take some caution with him and don't play him right away, what's this going to do for the whole look of LA for the next few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big concern, and it's probably one of the bigger fantasy takeaways we have. What to do with LAFC after Vela, and I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more when we get into the picks. For me, probably the surprise result, I've got two. I think the shocker was Colorado going into Red Bull Arena and beating Red Bulls 2-0. This was Fraser's first game as coach. Did really well. We saw much more of a bunker from Colorado than we have. They've been kind of being a little bit more of a hybrid. This was just, I'm going to sit back and hit you with Jonathan Lewis on the counter, and it really worked well. Red Bulls didn't have any answers. The other one for me was just Seattle and the LA Galaxy becoming a goal fest. Maybe that isn't a total shocker, but it's still fantasy and relevant. Zlatan and Jordan Morris getting a bunch of points from that game. And those are two teams which I feel like at the beginning of this season we're like, okay, they have really good defenses, or at least you don't want to target them. But I feel like that's been changing recently, and teams have been able to get goals, and they've had to go into shootouts in order to get results. So that's kind of something that I'm taking into this week. Obviously important. Seattle's playing Colorado. and one of the few games that we have this week. What about y'all? What were your big takeaways?
Another one I've got. DC just looks better right now. I know Montreal is kind of a hit or miss team, but for DC to put up 3 on them on the road is a big deal, especially without Rooney. This has been one of those teams that's been in transition a little bit. And, I said Ola Kamara could become a big fantasy player before the end of the season, and there's 2 more goals. I don't know. There's just like a new life in this team, a little bit of a new spark right now. And a win like that will build confidence. You may not believe in DC, but coming off of some of the results they've had, especially a 3-0 win on the road, I look for them to have some more confidence in their next game, which is not this week. So the short week, you can ignore it, but see what happens there, and definitely keep an eye on Ola Kamara. He seems to have chemistry with the rest of the pieces around him right now.
Yeah, for me, biggest takeaway is just what is LAFC's identity when Vela is not in that lineup. It was a different team completely.
Yeah, so and I think overall this was a pretty good week to get like some differentiation in fantasy scores. I know we saw it in our head-to-head, and looking through chat, it seems like a bunch of different scores. I see 80, 87, 78. Christian had a 90 with a Lapalainen captain, a 96. So, yeah, kind of scores all over. I see a 97. So you could really get some differentiation, and I think that's something going into this week. When there's a week where there's a lot of uncertainty, or if everyone goes in on one result and that result goes south, like the LA Minnesota game, there can be a lot of opportunities for games. But Blaine, I think that's a really good shout on Ola Kamara. Probably, and I mentioned him a little bit on Drossic for FC Dallas. He's continuing to get goals. And at 5, I don't remember what he is now, but he's now up to 6 million. That price is only going to rise. Probably someone at least to stash on your bench and a switcheroo after this week, just to kind of continue to get price rises. Any other players that we should look out for, guys? What about Philly's win against Atlanta? I know Patrick probably doesn't want to talk about it, but I thought that was a big statement win for Philadelphia. Or was that a fluke for the Open Cup, Patrick? What do you think?
No, that actually was a good win for Philly. They deserved that win. It's just, you saw when they brought in Ilsinho, he is super sub for a reason. Everything opens up when Ilsinho takes the pitch, and they nailed us in the second half with him in there.
Yeah,
Montiero being back is really stabilizing this team too. They look better with him out there, and now that he's back, with or without Ilsinho, because I know he's been lights out all season being a sub and really making things happen. But the defense plays better with Montiero out there. The offense seems to be rolling a little better. I don't know what it is about his play, but just him being that kind of extra midfield presence and linking front to back has been outstanding for this team. And with him back, I think they're a full-on fantasy contender again. Grab these guys when you can on those good matchups, because even at home against good defenses, they're playing well.
Yeah, I think so. Other than that, I don't think there was anything too shocking. Obviously, Dallas rolling over FC Cincinnati. Probably just some notes from this weekend. Atlanta did beat Minnesota for the Open Cup. So that competition is now done. Philadelphia and the New York City clinched playoff spots. I guess Atlanta will clinch probably next weekend, maybe even this weekend if the results are good. So there's a few more teams that are in. I think Vancouver has been officially eliminated. So I don't think it changes a whole lot of who's playing for what, but something to kind of keep in mind as we go forward. So let's kind of move into housekeeping. Obviously, this week is a big international break. But before we get into that, we wanted to talk about Patreon. That's how we kind of keep the bills going for what we do, pays for service costs. Maybe we're kind of looking into getting new swag for our donors and for our league. maybe even upgrading some of our equipment so that we can provide better quality streams to y'all in the future. I know if you were here earlier in the chat, you were enjoying us trying to figure out how to do this with the read taking off a little bit. So Patrick is here because he's one of our Patreon donors. So I wanted to give Patrick an opportunity to talk to us and everyone in the audience about why he thinks it's so important to donate to.
So I came into fantasy. This is my first year doing MLS fantasy, and first started, and I was terrible. We don't even want to talk scores. It's embarrassing. And trying to find resources, stumbled upon MLSFantasyBoss.com. Genuinely, truly helped immediately. Looking at the advice on the keeperoo, switcheroo, autoroo, and then the behind the numbers series that Kyle does, the ELO rankings that Reed puts out, all the articles that are on there. It's not just the YouTube video and the SoundCloud podcast. There's all that other stuff over there on the website. And, they do all of this just to try to help us do better in this game. So why not just give back where you can? If somebody's helping, help back.
Yeah, and then that's exactly how I got started. Is I found this trying to figure out what picks to make when I didn't know anything about MLS. Period. And MLS Fantasy Boss was there for me, and the podcast was a great help on the subreddit and all of that. So, if you guys can contribute, there's a lot of great rewards if you do. But I think the biggest reward is just being part of a great community. It's a great place to kind of talk soccer, get to know people, root for other teams, and all of that. So it's definitely a rewarding experience. And for all of you who already donate to Patreon, thank you so much. We really appreciate all that you do. And Patrick, thank you for contributing to us and being a part of the community. And I think we're all better. So now let's get into the meat of the matter, which is we have a few games, 5 games in this international break. So that means you're going to have to deal with a bunch of absences, and I'm going to go through all those absences. But here are the games that we have. All the games are on Saturday, starting at 2:30 Eastern. Those games are New York City versus New England Revolution, FC Cincinnati versus Toronto, Orlando versus LAFC, Colorado versus Seattle, and Portland versus Sporting Kansas City. Every other team is on. There's a few games next midweek, but we'll talk about that next week. So let's go through all of the international absences. All right, for New York City, Matarrita, Sean Johnson, Maxime Chanot, Alexander Callens. Now I'm going to put a note on Chanot, which is something that I found out today, just happened on a New York City Twitter, which is that I don't think Chanot actually went to his call-up. Apparently the plan is that he's going to join Luxembourg after Saturday's game, but that's just literally from fans talking to Chanot at training today. So that's where we are. Injury and international set. We're getting news from fans talking to Chanot. So he may or may not. Keep an eye out. We'll talk about that in a little bit. For the Revolution, they have nobody. I don't know how they managed to do that, but they did. Congratulations to Bruce Arena for being a genius. FC Cincinnati, Waston, Cruz, Etienne, and before I forget, on New York City, I didn't talk about Hebert. Hebert is injured with a quad injury. He should miss 4 weeks. So even though he wasn't called up for Bruce, he's still going to miss time. For TFC, the call-ups are Larea, Fraser, Osorio, and Telfer. Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore were not called up because Berhalter felt bad for them because they were in the middle of a playoff chase. If you want to hear me rant for 20 minutes, ask me about why he called them up, not called them up and called everyone else up. People probably don't want to see me rant. Well, maybe you do. For Orlando, Miller, Johnson, Mendez, and Esquez. For LAFC, Kay, Atuesta, Palacios, and Zimmerman. For Colorado, Anderson, Bassett. For Seattle, this is going to take a while, Smith, Arriaga, Rui Diaz, Svensson, Jones, Roldan, Morris, Ocampo Chavez. For Portland, Flores, Paredes, Zambrano, SKC, Gutierrez, Barra, Nemeth, Hazlitt, and Russell. So, I'm going to need to take a long drink after all of those names. So, guys, what are your first impressions on all of the international absences? Who do you think is the worst hit by all of this?
Well, you missed one as well. Bucio's also gone. He's with the U17s. I just double checked that roster, and he's the only MLS player that could play this week that has been called up as well. So yeah, that's another one there.
See, MLS must not have had him on the list.
Yeah, they might not. I don't know that they watch the U17 line as much because how many MLS 17-year-olds are playing here and capable of getting called up to the team.
Right.
But anyway, I'll just take off. Arguably, the two worst hit here are Seattle and Sporting Kansas City. I mean, the rumor going around is Seattle may have 11 field players ready to dress for this weekend. I know there's some rules on extreme hardship call-ups from your two teams and USL affiliates, and I think Seattle's definitely on the radar for that. And that's just a huge blow to them. That's a ton of starters. Defense looks mostly untouched other than Smith, but it's now Ladero plus whoever, and honestly, being a KC fan, this is going to hurt. They've been on a roll, 3 straight wins, 3 straight shutouts, but now they're losing kind of the heart of their roster right now with Russell and Gutierrez up the middle. That's been where a lot of their creativity has come from, and we'll just have to see. There's a lot of guys in and out of favor with the coach. Ilier's been kind of one of those workhorse players that never missed a start until this season, and now he's missed 3 starts in a row. So I think that's going to take a lot out of the whole Kansas City team and a lot of the consistency they've been building on lately.
Patrick, do you agree with him?
Yeah, those two teams definitely took the biggest hit. I mean, especially Seattle looking at calling people up from a lower level team just to make enough people, and KC turning it around once they changed their formation, and now just to have the heart of it ripped out, that's the 2 hardest hit for sure.
Well, I'm looking at Grand Admiral Thrawn here, and he looks like he's thinking New York City with his Blues. And I think there is a case to be made there. I mean, New York City's losing 3 out of the 4 players of its back line, maybe 2 out of the 4 if Chanot is in fact staying here. But that's a pretty big defensive hit, plus your goalkeeper. I don't know if, I mean, other than, I think I definitely agree that Seattle's the hardest hit. I don't think you could lose that many players. Plus, I mean, we've talked about it before. Seattle has depth issues, and they can't take these kind of hits. And we saw it earlier in the year when Seattle really struggled when they had all these absences. I mean, I think Seattle would probably be in firm second position in the West if they didn't have all of these issues. But, I mean, New York City losing almost their entire defense, I think that's going to play into effect. For everyone else, other than those teams that we've talked about, there's absences, but I don't think it super hurts. I did read an article posted on Reddit about Portland's losses, but kind of looking through the roster, doesn't seem like it's that bad. They seem like they still have most of the core together, but I think those are the big teams that are going to be hit. So with that in mind, are there any players who you guys are staying away from this week? Patrick, I'll start with you.
Hard ball right there. I actually, my first look, I had him in, but then going off of Toronto's form lately and the fact that he was hurt with that leg muscle deal last week, Josie, I think I've got to stay away from him even against Cincinnati. It's just not worth it when you got other forward options that are more than capable of pulling it off this week.
What about you, Blaine?
No, I think on a slim week like this, you've really got to open up the books and say whoever's playing is available. There are some players like Josie to keep an eye on. Great call there, Patrick. He is a guy that's got a yellow dot right now. He is 50-50 on whether he's going to go, as far as I've heard. But he's in that second game slot, so that really opens it up. I think you've got a lot of back-end players that you can bring in for the money, for a little bit cheaper, and I think you got to look at it, and you got to take advantage of the heavy hitters that are playing in those 2 early games, or those 3 early games. Really, you'll get to see 3 lineups before you really have to go crunch time and make picks. And I really think you got to kind of keep an open mind and look at every single player that's available this week, because there are a lot of options. There's a lot of cheap options that are going to get some playing time, and some guys that are looking to prove themselves that have already done a little bit for us in fantasy, and now they're going to get a chance to shine again.
For me, my stay away player is probably for the reason that we mentioned. He's not going to have Rui Diaz. He's not going to have Jordan Morris to have outlet passes to. Without that many absences, I think it's going to really drag down his value. The other part about that is with the way Colorado plays. From the 1 week we've seen with Fraser sitting back and bunkering, I don't know that that's a style that's really going to work well for Ladero. I just think he won't accumulate the bonus points for his price point to make it worth it. And even with all the absences, the one thing we do have a lot of this week, in my opinion, are really good midfielders. So it's an easy pick for me to drop Ladero with all of that going on. What are the big games that y'all are looking at for fantasy points? Blaine, I'll start with you.
What was that question again?
What are the big games? There's only 5 games to pick from. so out of the 5 games, what do you think is going to be the biggest feast of fantasy points?
I'm really looking at that New England, New York City game. Even if Hebert's out, which it sounds like he is, Matriza and Tati have both been fantastic going forward. You're not losing a lot of that offensive spark on the small pitch in New York. That's going to be really good. And then you take away that defense, and the really strong New England attack led by Hill is going to come up. And I think this is a game that could easily go 3-3 or even 4-4 the way these teams are playing. And with it being in New York, I think that gives them a little bit of that home field edge for the offense. Maybe they play a little more conservative, knowing that the defense isn't there, but maybe they just go all out and say we're just going to outscore them and not worry about it. And so I could see this one really blowing up fast.
Patrick, what about you?
I agree with that one. I think one that may turn out Colorado and Seattle, with Seattle being down so many people, Colorado at home, new coach, they're wanting to show everybody what they're capable of under him. So I think Colorado could put up some good points on Seattle.
For me, I'm still looking at FC Cincinnati, just because of how bad FC Cincinnati has been all year. Obviously, Josie's injury will play a big part in how much points TFC can get. But even with TFC's struggles, I feel like the best thing to cure anyone's struggles is to play FC Cincinnati, especially with them not getting as hit as hard at the call-ups as we're used to. I feel like there could be some points there. But yeah, it's really interesting because all these games have questions. That's just what we have to deal with international breaks. So let's get into the picks. And I feel like, and y'all can correct me, but I feel like the defenders was the hardest picks this week. So let's start with keepers and defenders. Patrick.
All right. Just because FC Cincinnati, I've got Westberg right now in a keeper-roo spot, and then I've got Steve Clark in that late game if Westberg doesn't pan out. I know older goaler is probably going to love this shout-out, but my back line was Smith, and Smith until I saw that Brad Smith call-up come in a little later and had to get rid of him. So now I've got Smith from Kansas City, Smith from Colorado, and then I threw in Jordan Harvey from LAFC.
All right, Blaine?
Yeah, just because you never know what's going to happen, I threw Stuver in there as the early part of a keeperoo. 4.9, that's not a ton to invest in a guy who, you're talking penalty save, faces a lot of shots, puts up a lot of saves. He could easily knock you a 4 or a 5 and give up a couple of goals. So I'll take that risk on the front end. I think if I got a 4 or a 5, I'd probably keep him, knowing how these games go on the short week. Looking at Clark on the back end of that, possibly go with Rowe or Westberg on that too. There's a lot of options here, and really, if you don't like the first score, just pick somebody who's starting the next game and go with it. We always talk in this section about clean sheet shouts. I think Portland's one of my clean sheet shouts, and really, I don't see another one. Maybe Colorado gets one with Seattle missing so many players, but I don't know. I don't necessarily see a lot of clean sheets here, even for Toronto on the road. I mean, it really depends on if Pozuelo even plays and what team we get coming out there. So yeah, not really any clean sheet shouts. So take your chances for bonus points, and that's why Stuver is definitely going to be on my roster, at least on the sub spot, to see what he gets, because I think he's going to face as many or more shots than anybody else this week. As far as my defenders go, right now I've got some placeholders in there to see who starts. I'm going to have a Portland defender, budget allowing. Right now I've got Tuiloma in there. I think at 4.9, the way he's been playing, if he's going to play, it's been good. There's a couple options ahead of him, but they're a lot more expensive. I do have Beta Shore in there for LAFC. Again, if money's there, I'm going to upgrade him to a little bit better player. And then I'm probably going to go with one Toronto defender. Currently it's Mavinga, but you never know who's going to start. So kind of wait and see and roll the dice on that one.
Y'all are pretty similar. I have a Stuver Westberg keeperoo. For me, it's the easiest thing, Stuver, being the very first game. I don't know if he has the best clean sheet shout. Really, your only other option would be to do a Westberg Clark switcher with the timing of it. Other picks, Tuloma from Portland, J. Smith from Sporting Kansas City, Harvey, and then a name I didn't hear anybody say is Abdul Salam for Seattle. The main reason I have him in there, $4 million. I think he's pretty much a starter with what's going on this week for Seattle. So, I know Colorado scored, but Colorado does have defensive problems. Can I see a clean sheet shout? Yeah, so he and Smith are on my bench. Kind of see if some magic happens and I get a clean sheet as part of the auto room. Now we come to midfielders. I said earlier, I think there's a lot of midfielders. Blaine, you nodded your head. So which midfielders do you have this week?
So I disagreed with you a little bit, and I do like Ladero this week, given the way the rest of the teams are lined up. He may not have all of his targets, but I think he's going to see a lot of the ball, and this is a good chance to get a lot of bonus points. I could be wrong with the way Colorado plays, but it's just, I think, given everybody else who's here, I really think he's worth a shout again. But then, yeah, you talk about go heavy in the midfield. Maxi Morales, Diego Valeri, and Carlos Gil are all three in my lineup for this one. Go big or go home on this week. I didn't trust all the forward options, so let's just spend the bulk of my money here. And that leaves Jonathan Lewis as well on the bench at 7.4 for Colorado. He's been coming on strong. They're going to be missing a couple of playmakers with Rubio and Kamara called up, so that's really going to open up the game for him to shine and give a chance to really go forward and kind of run this offense a little bit from the wing. And he's been scoring some goals already for him, so I look for him to continue that. For the record, I do have Ladero in there, but he is on the bench along with Lewis to see kind of who gets the better of those two scores and see what happens here.
Patrick?
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same as Blaine, except I've got Pozuelo in instead of Ladero. Kind of the same situation, just you don't know what he's going to do, but he's on the bench in an auto respot if he does pull something out. Valeri, Maxi Morales, Carlos Gil, and Jonathan Lewis are my others, so he already hit all the key talking points.
Yeah, and that's me too. Gil, Lewis, Morales, Pozuelo, and Valeri for me.
I wanted to jump in here while we're talking. Shannon just said, what about Orlando? And Matt followed up with, Orlando has played good defensively. I noticed none of the three of us pulled any LAFC midfielders here. I know they've got a couple of call-ups, but the one glaring name that's missing from our list right now is Blessing.
Yeah, and for me, and I was going to mention it kind of as an overall once we got to forwards with Val and all of that about LAFC, but I think that is one of the more interesting games. And Matt points it out in the chat. Orlando, for all their faults, has been pretty good defensively, and they're not too bad at home. So I'm assuming Vela's missing this week too. So I'm not super excited. And then when you add in no Atuesta, no K, they're just not my first choices everywhere. Honestly, someone mentioned I think if Orlando's defenders were priced a little better, I might go with an Orlando defender this week. But you know, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I just it's not a great match. If Vela was here, it might be a totally different ball. They've got with Vela out, they've got too many key absences against a decent defensive team. That's also death.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I considered Blessing, but with all the unknowns, and the other options that were seemingly a lot safer, it's just better to leave him out.
Yeah, I'll finish off. I think one decent bench option to look at this week at 6.7 is Lee Win.
Yeah.
I would say he's one of those guys that if he gets to start, he's a guy that's playing for his career, playing for his job. Maybe not with LAFC, but to put himself back on the map and possibly into the transfer market so he can go somewhere and start, because I don't think there's a chance for him to start, barring a couple of key sales from LAFC between now and next season. So he's a guy that I would expect to showcase really well if he gets to play, just because he's playing for a potential starting spot with another team next year.
All right, so let's get to four. Let me ask you this question. Well, let's get your picks, and I'll ask you what you're going to do about Vela, or the Vela conundrum. So Patrick, who do you have?
Currently, I've got Brian Fernandez. He has been a little slack lately, but he's still got 10 goals in 15 games. So, hoping he comes back through in there, and Gustavo Bo. Because, in my CFC, he is missing a lot on that back line, and you got that Hill and Bo combination that has every opportunity to just eat points away. And then on the bench, I've actually got Tati Castellanos.
All right, Blaine?
Yeah, I'm going with a little different approach here. I think if Tati should be starting, so I'm going to throw him in there at 7.6. That's just too good of a value to pass up on a short week, and he has been on fire lately. And then I'm kind of running a one here with, I've got Josie in my lineup. I'm hoping he will be ready to go and start. And if he does, I'm going to leave it alone. If he doesn't, I'm going to switch that one to Brian Fernandez and see and roll the dice there. He's been hit or miss on the starts lately. He has been putting up good numbers when he does start. But against a depleted Kansas City team, I really think you got to roll from Josie to him. And Ebobisse is also there in that last game, and if it's not Fernandez, it's Ebobisse starting, and either one of those are going to be a pretty good shout this week. I would trust either one of them, and so that's kind of the plan there. And then I went ahead and threw Shin Yoshiki on my bench at 5.8 without Kamara and without Rubio. He's pretty much a lock to start for Colorado, at home, at altitude, against a depleted Seattle side. Roll the dice with him. Honestly, I think he's a good shout just to put in your lineup as a starter. But I'm running with the two other forwards, so I'm going to throw him as a cheap option on the bench. But I could definitely see him with being one of the top 3, top 5 scorers of the round with a really good game.
I think Blaine had what I'm pretty much the exact same. I have Tati Castellanos on my bench, mostly because right now I just have a single Otteru, and I can just scrub out like Lewis or somebody to let him in, or depending if Josie plays. And I do have Josie in my starting line to kind of see if he plays. And I have Bo. And if Josie doesn't play, my plan is to switch him to Fernandez, just like Blaine, kind of for the same reasons. So let me ask you guys a few questions. If we get some positive news about, will you rearrange to get Vela in your?
So I'll jump in on. Vela is in my plans for this week. I actually built kind of around this. If Vela plays, I can easily scrub out Shinyashiki. Assuming Josie plays, I'll have Tati and Josie up top. I can scrub out Shinyashiki. I love his upside, but if Vela's playing, I think you really have to have Vela this week. The Ladero gets dropped in a heartbeat for Vela this week. That opens up a spot. It could be a Seattle spot. It could be a Colorado spot. It could be even Orlando or Blessing at that point. But I've got the plans where Ladero's kind of my fallback. He plays that later game. He's going to be sacrificed for Vela if I see Vela's in the lineup. And then I kind of pick and choose based on the way the rest of the lineups go and see what happens for that fifth midfielder spot. But that fifth spot is a bench option. I think Colorado's got one or two that may work. Orlando's got a couple of guys that I would like. And I mean, again, I plugged him earlier. Lee Win is a definite. If Vela's playing, that really ups the value for Lee Win this week too. So I've kind of got a fallback plan, but I did build my roster with the money on the back end where I could switch to Vela if I do see him start.
What about you, Patrick?
Yeah, I've got the money left over in the bank to swap out just about anybody for Villa if it comes to it. I don't really see him playing, but I've got that plan in place. If he is in that 18, then I'll make the move for it.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have the money for it. I'm still a little on the poor side. I'm only like 121.9. So I can't, with as much money as I spend in midfield at the moment, I don't think I can swing it. I mean, probably my only one to scrub out would be if I reduced G Smith for something cheaper. Wouldn't be really a whole lot. Other options, if Josie doesn't start, my boy, Patrick Mullins, 4.3 against Cincinnati. I think you could probably do worse to have him on your bench. I don't think he's been consistent enough for you to have him on your team. Unless you're super awesome, which I'm not super awesome this year, so I don't have him on my team. But if you're struggling price points, if maybe you missed a few weeks, I think you could do worse than having him on your bench as part of an auto win at 4.3 against the Cincinnati team that likes to give up goals and chances. Other ones, kind of players to go through. We talked about Lewis. Any other players y'all want to kind of mention? Maybe someone in chat. No one from FC Cincinnati at a home game. No one to go with cheap FC Cincinnati defender, especially if Josie is out. Anyone want to take that?
I don't think you can this week.
Yeah, probably not. But I could see someone having fun. Is anybody interested in an Orlando defender?
If I could afford them, yeah. The way the midfield and the forward line ran, I just couldn't afford anybody better. I would probably put one of their defenders right behind the Portland defenders. I mean, you've got Villafaña at $8 million. Let me scroll up. And Morera at 8.9. I mean, I think those are two of your probably best shout defenders this week. But that is a lot of money when we're talking about expensive midfielders. But yeah, Orlando's defenders, if Bella's not playing, would definitely be on the list. I would take them over a Graham Smith or a Mavinga or a Beta Shore this week. But I don't have the money for it. But yeah, there's some good options, especially getting forward for Orlando, that if you can afford them, I would definitely plan on having at least one of them in your lineup and ready to go.
Let me throw out another name from Orlando that we haven't mentioned, which is surprising considering how good he was early. Nani at 9.1. Anyone interested in that as a differential pick?
I actually looked at Nani early on, but considering matchups and everything, I ended up giving Lewis that spot just because I like that matchup a little bit better. But it's not a bad shout.
Yeah, depending on what lineup we see from LAFC and just how crazy it is with Vela out, and assuming Vela's out, at this point, I'm kind of at the coin toss. I put Ladero in because he's so steady with bonus points, and he's just been kind of a workhorse. But I could definitely see downgrading Ladero to Nani for that bench role and then throwing that money at a guy like Morera or Villafaña for Portland and upgrading to Loma at that point. And that may be one of the better shouts this week for that kind of combo. But it's all a trade-off. I don't like to spend as much money on the back, but it could definitely happen for me this week. And I just kind of want to see the lineup on that first game before I pull the trigger on a Nani over Ladero.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem. Nani's had a little bit of a downward turn, and there's so many midfield options this week. But I mean, if you're trying to kind of make up ground, go differential. If LAFC kind of puts out a bad lineup, which maybe they will, because Bob Riley just wants to get people some rest and get them in good shape, because these games really don't matter for them until mid-October. I could definitely see it, but I mean, I think that's kind of something that you're going to have to do with all of these games, to kind of check the lineup. I mean, most of these teams are going for something, but LAFC is one of the few that don't, or at least one of the few that you actually want fantasy players from that don't. FC Cincinnati, I don't know of anyone that you would really want unless you just want a cheap defender. And like I said, you have Abdul Salam at $4 million. So I think that's probably the better route if you need a cheap defender. Can Dwyer finish Nani's chances? The answer is no. Dwyer cannot finish anyone's chances. That might go down as one of the worst trades in MLS history, in my opinion. Credit to Peter Vermes for making that trade and then not doing much with it. All right. Well, that is all that I have. It's obviously a short week, only 5 games, but
you're missing a key section.
Oh,
yeah, captain's picks.
Well, you know what? It would have helped if y'all had pointed it out that I was missing on the rundown. So, who's your captain pick, Blaine?
I've currently got it on Valeri. I think Kansas City being one of the more depleted teams, and Valeri being one of those premium players, really got to look at it. I mean, you've got a couple of shouts from Colorado. I mean, Lewis and Shinishiki are both really high on my list. But do I really want to captain a sub 8 million player this week? And I don't think you can captain a sub 8 million player when you've got a guy like Valeri playing against another pretty strongly depleted team. So I'm going with him. That said, I will leave the caveat that depending on lineups in earlier games, and if Josie and Pozuelo are both playing, I could definitely see switching that armband up to a Josie or somebody in one of those early games, because the lineups are facilitating that, and that's one of the reasons why it's on Valeri, so I have the longest time to make a change if I want to. But more than likely, it's going to stay with Valeri.
Patrick.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth between 2 choices right now. Valeri being one, the other being Maxi Morales. Playing at home, it's hard to go against Maxi. He's going to get a ton of bonus points in that game. So, going between the 2 right now, it's on Maxi Morales, but it's very tentative and changes about every 2 seconds.
For me, I have it on Valeri. The reason I didn't go with Max Morales is because I kind of want to see that lineup first. If Chanot is available and it's Ibiega, Sweat, and Tinnerholm, and Ring are kind of playing defensive midfield, I don't mind it as much. But if Chanot is not actually part of it, or if there's a reduced lineup where Ring is kind of playing as a center back, it usually means Maxi is dropped further back and he doesn't get as many. So that's kind of what I want to double check on. Moreover, I mean, New England Revolution is one of the few teams that's like really intact, whereas Valeri is going to be at home against a depleted Port City team. So that's why I have the armband on Valeri. So yeah, I mean, honestly, if New York, if Chanot is not able to make, I might be tempted to put it on heel, because it's a lot of depleted defense for a motivated New England team. But yeah, and it seems like from chat we got a shout for Valeri, 2 for captain. So yeah, so this is week. Do not always captain Vela. But let me ask you this: if Vela does play, do you captain Vela?
No. That, I mean, if it's legitimately a hamstring injury and he's going to be coming back, he could be done in 15 or 30 minutes as well. I mean, one slight tweak and he's coming off. I don't think you could risk it for Vela over Valeri versus Kansas City, the way they're playing. It just don't risk it.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't imagine that Vela is actually going to play this week. There's no reason. I mean, LAFC is like a game or 2 away from clinching the supportership. So I don't know why you would play him. Just get him healthy for the playoff. But we'll see. I've seen teams play players before when they didn't need to and get burned. We'll see. What are you gonna say, Blaine?
The only reason Valeri will play is because Valeri wants the records.
I mean Vela?
That's Vela. Sorry. The only reason, he wants those records. I mean, he seemed frustrated when he got subbed off that one game. He's kind of shown some emotion with scoring and the records. I don't think he's liking having to sit out for injury. I think he wants those records. Zlatan and Martinez are inching closer to the goals tally with him sitting on the sidelines. I know he wants to get back and secure the golden boot, push for that record. And I could see him trying to fight his way back in sooner rather than later. Because of that, the question is Bradley going to let him do it? But I don't think it's going to be this week, but he could surprise us and come back because he really does seem hungry for those records.
All right, well, guys, is there any other parts of the rundown that I missed? Going twice. Sold. All right, well, let's get plugs. Patrick, tell the people where they can. I know one person in chat wanted to have a beer with you.
Find me if you're down in the bottom southeast corner of Alabama. Just come look me up. We'll go have us a beer. Now you can feel free to hit me on Twitter, YouTube, at Captain Howdy 5150 on Twitter, and Patrick N. Smith on Facebook. And I will get killed if I don't give a shout out to my fantasy league, the Fire Breathing Rubber Duckies. They were all expecting a shout. So, what's up, guys?
Hey, we love those leagues. Those are what keep players invested here. I've got the Tacos League, which has a couple of our chat regulars. I mean, RJ Gage is playing in that one with us. Jessup, whichever name you know him as. He's been on the show a couple of times. We love those homebrew leagues. So, Fire Breathing Duckies, that is an awesome name.
Are you leading the Fire Breathing Duckies?
I am leading the Fire Breathing Rubber Duckies. I think I'm about right at 100 points ahead right now. So pretty safe lead at this point.
Blaine, did you have anything else?
Oh, I got a question for Patrick. Do you have one of those crazy fantasy bets for the loser, like got to get a tattoo of a fire-breathing rubber ducky or something like that? Because that would be an awesome tattoo to get out of a loss.
We don't have anything crazy. We're new and just trying to get our little league built up as much as we can local right now. But I mean, I've thought about a fire-breathing rubber ducky tattoo just to have, because that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should definitely be like a traveling trophy. Whoever has it just gets the fire-breathing rubber ducky, and it goes from every year. I mean, that's got to happen. I want a fire-breathing rubber ducky. Blaine, that's what we need our Patreon funds to go to. We need to talk to you.
Hey, I'm all for it. I actually work at a place that's all duck themed, and at the top of everybody's cubes are rubber duckies, and they do different ones to commemorate different events in the company's history. I've got a couple of them, but if I had a fire-breathing rubber ducky to put on the top of my cube, I would have one of the best ducks in the place out of about 1,000 ducks I've seen on the shelf. So if somebody makes a fire-breathing rubber ducky, count me in for one. Like, I want one of these.
They do exist.
Oh, now I'm going to have to track one down.
All right. Well, we go on a
me this week, though.
All right. Well, we go on a search for fire-breathing rubber duckies. I can see the Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's been quiet, but he does want me to shout out the TIE Defender, so I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you for joining us, Grand Admiral Thrawn. And thank you for everyone who's joined us in chat, and to Patrick, who's joined us today and helped us. With that said, good luck. All right. Well, that is podcast. I'll do a magical wave for Reed so you can find this out. That's where we. So Jojo, this is Patrick, who is now morphed, left the chat into the.
It's a strange leap.
Everybody's got to start somewhere. We've always got writing positions open with Fantasy Boss.
Oh yeah, I've thought about trying to get deeper in it. It's being relatively new to all this. I'm just trying to get as much info in me as I possibly can. and just be the best I can to be the best help I can. So especially my league, every week. I'm probably about the only league commissioner you'll see that I post every bit of information I find that's going to help them to hopefully beat me, because I want them to beat me.
Sounds like my tacos league. I post all the time and go, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Use it to your advantage, and just I keep asking people to beat me. And my league's gotten better from season to season.
I actually had one guy that just joined the league this fall season, and he's actually in second place right now over guys that were with me from when we started it back in the spring, and he actually tied me at 108 this week, which was nice to see.
But sometimes that could help because you don't have those preconceptions from the beginning of the season. So then when you come in, you're like, okay, well, like these players are good and these players are good. So it can really help out. Back, Reed.
And don't worry, chat, JoJo. I'll be back in there with y'all next week, I promise. I just didn't have this set up where I could be in chat at the same time. How did it go?
It was good. I thought Thrawn had some pretty good picks.
Did he? He had some good.
Thrawn is going to win the week.
Some good tactics.
Good tactics, yeah.
I can see how he would.
I got in Thrawn's plug at the very end. I'll let you listen.
Oh, good. I got that.
Defender Segura. You can go Segura. I don't think that's a bad shot. I think he was just too expensive. Yeah, I needed to shave off, so I went with Harvey and saved the extra. Yeah, the extra was in short there.
On that defender, I've got Beta Shore instead of Segura just because of the money aspect of it. I was a little tight on budget when I built my first lineup, and so he was just a holdover from that.
Yeah, and I went with Harvey for kind of the same reason, just to save a little bit of money just in case that Vela thing came through. But it's a good shout out for Segura.
But no, I think this is definitely, unless you're picking like a clean sheet chance, like you think somebody's really got one, it's one per team and grab somebody who's going to get the most bonus points, or grab somebody who's really cheap on one of the teams with kind of the highest chance of bonus points, or highest chance of a clean sheet, and see what happens. But really not doubling up this week on defense.
Yeah, I don't think there's a great clean sheet this week. This week, like all international breaks, I don't go with clean sheet. It's just in two of them. So, I just kind of went cheap just to focus on my midfield. I think that's a strategy Thrawn would appreciate. Reed, you finished that last Thrawn book? Oh, maybe you cannot talk to us. He's muted.
I am about 80 pages into the third book.
Gotcha.
Hey Reed, you'll be happy to know we started the show without having to say push to talk.
Yep.
I'm glad to see that my trial and error process has paid off.
Yeah. I did forget to do pack captain's picks, which Blaine and Patrick did stop me before I did the podcast. We actually got pack captain's picks, so that was cool. Top left, dude from NOLA sounded like his mic is trying to pick up voice instead of push to talk, and he cuts out nonstop while talking the last. That is the problem with doing voice activation instead of push to talk.
And when it cuts out, you get the robot mic again. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, that's the problem with Discord, is that other than unless I do a push to talk, that's really the only way to stop that.
It's like last week, I wasn't trying to ignore you in the chat when you were asking me like what part of Alabama I was from. I just couldn't hear you because it kept cutting out on you, so I had no idea what you actually asked me.
My name is Michael. That's okay. You can forget my name. dude from Nolan is fine with me. Yeah, and honestly, I probably just need to rearrange it so that my microphone is closer to me. It was a little weird today because I needed to have the keyboard in front of me to switch between the rundown and. So this might be a little bit better. And after the season is, we'll probably be doing more experimenting with different platforms. But we kind of had to switch midstream, so we found the first thing that worked and played.
Yeah, and JoJo's right. Telling Reed to hit push to talk, that's tradition. If that is not in the revamped opening, something needs to change.
You know, I gotta say, I kind of like this push to talk system. Sarah's random outbursts on me when she comes into the room aren't caught on the mic anymore.
Which is really a negative push.
It may be a negative for the community, it's a positive for me.
Twitch, I don't think we saw Twitch. I don't think we did too much investigating. I didn't see it as one of. We kind of looked to see who the recommended platform are. And Twitch didn't come up.
I'm not sure that Twitch can do the multi-chat with video like this. I may be wrong on that. I do know it allows you to do single stream and you can bring other people in, but I don't know if it'll do multi-video or not.
Yeah.
All that we're essentially doing right now is I have the chat going on my computer, and then I'm using OBS to stream my screen, which is why when I do the alt tabs it looks funky. It just streams what's on my screen to YouTube. So hey Lily, so I don't know if it has integration with Twitch, but it just depends on what software we're actually using to chat, and then the streaming service is sort of secondary to that. So I don't know if Twitch would help unless it had some sort of built-in system like YouTube used to have with Hangouts. But we'll give it a shot. I mean, I'll check it out over the off season and just kind of see what options we have.
And yeah, JoJo, the problem for us is it's multiple videos from multiple sources. It's one thing to have multiple videos from your from the same computer, because I mean that's what Twitch I think does really well. Is you can have your face cam and then you can stream your game. But as far as streaming from Kentucky and from Kansas City and from Alabama and from New Orleans, that's where we have the problem, because that's something unique to us that not a lot of platforms can do well. So that is our conundrum.
Well, I got a first for tonight from Lily. Lily came in and climbed up on my lap and goes, "Daddy's podcasting."
So who's Lily's captain pick? We haven't got. Yeah, Lily, who is the best player this week? Who are you going?
Who's our captain this week? Oh.
I'm gonna put her down as Bella. Just put her down. That was as close as I came that one. How do people think the U.S. teams is going to do this week?
That's a good question. Not well, from what I can tell, but I try to stay optimistic.
I don't want them to get smashed for taking New York City players over Toronto. That just pisses. Like, if you're going to leave some players out for playoff chance, leave them all.
No, that's not taking New York City players over Toronto. That's Toronto refusing to let their players go.
But you can't refuse. It's an international break. There's no
They did. They did, though. That's what happened.
They can't. They couldn't find them.
U.S. soccer won't push it. I mean, they could push to have them suspended for those games, or under the threat of if they play those players, they forfeit that match. Like that's the potential fallout from that, or take a big fine. But U.S. soccer's scared of MLS. They don't want to alienate MLS, and Berhalter's an MLS guy, so they're not going to fight this. But yeah, they could push it, but they won't.
I'm just going to be so pissed if Stuver makes an error because Johnson needs to go sit on the bench for the U.S. and lose to Mexico.
You've clinched a playoff spot, not a big deal anymore.
I know, but I would rather not go to Atlanta in the playoffs. Patrick can tell you why. I mean, like, admittedly, New York City can probably still have the 2 games and still have its destiny in hand because we play both Philly and Atlanta, but I would rather not have to do that. Like, getting a few points in these next 2 games would be nice, and be able to, like, rest towards the end of the year would be nice. Because, I mean, if we cash in the games in hand, and then, I guess if we beat Atlanta, I think we would pretty much have it clinched before we play. But New York City's schedule is tough, and Atlanta's is pretty. So losing these games in hand because of
yeah,
granted it's our own fault because we have to play through a stupid stadium situation.
Yeah, Christian's got it right, and to tie it back into fantasy, how about we not play during international breaks? And I agree with that. And the fewer of these 10-team weeks we have in fantasy, the better.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, hopefully the new schedule next year, with it being realigned, will kind of more of that because we'll have less overlap. But it's still not going to. We're still going to. Hopefully, it'll be less of it. This week in particular really messes people. Like, I understand the last week of the summer trying to take advantage of that window where football and basketball is mostly over, and baseball isn't really all that meaningful. But this one just makes no sense because you've got football in full swing, baseball going down a pennant race. A lot of attention is paid elsewhere, and we're still throwing in games in the national.
And I'm frustrated with the whole schedule crunch and everything in the international breaks this year because the playoffs are supposed to be done by the end of October, so they're basically going to run the MLS playoffs head-to-head with the baseball playoffs through October. Mm-hmm. And in the last few years, we have seen kind of a late October through November playoff schedule, which puts the playoffs behind the baseball playoffs. Yeah, you're in the heart of football season, and you're going up against college football on Saturdays. But you're still in that, and then we played the final in the first weekend of December. Like, why couldn't they have extended this out just a couple of weeks, given us 2 full international breaks like this one, extend the season out, and then have the MLS Cup final not being at the tail end of October when you're probably in World Series time, and push it to the second weekend of November, right before Thanksgiving, and be behind baseball playoffs, and give us the international breaks. It would have been real easy to fit it in that way, because they've cut a month and a half off the back end of the season in order to accommodate all of this in the new playoff format, when they could have cut it back by about 3 weeks and given us international breaks.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I know is, like, I think there's unions how many, the gap. Because I know the reason we have this weird compressed schedule is because they want to make this next season start early. So they had to end this season earlier to accommodate the union required. But, it's also kind of silly because we're getting a new CBA next year. So. Yeah, I don't think we need any more December final. I think wrapping it up November makes sense.
Yeah,
it's also weird because we're fitting in playoffs between international breaks. At least we're not playing playoffs during the international breaks.
Yeah, I think trying to finish up between like the first, second weekend of November and Thanksgiving break is a perfect time for the final, because you're never going to go head-to-head with baseball at that point.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because I don't think New York City may have the Yankee Stadium available for their window if the Yankees make the second round of the championship in the ALC. So yeah, another reason we need to buy it. Yeah, they need charter flights. This next CBA is going to be really interesting. Hopefully they do good stuff. We will.
I could see a very easy compromise coming out here that Gam and Tam can be used for charter flights.
No, they're not going to do it.
I could see it. I mean, I know some teams, especially at the fringes of the coast,
But
that would
wouldn't
be
make
willing
sense.
to spend.
The teams that are spending money are going to want to spend it on the rock, not the charters. And the teams that aren't going to spend on Gam and Tam for players aren't going to spend. They're just like, to me, what makes the most sense is you put in a map and you eliminate the map, and you just say, here's the minimum. We're going to keep it low price for teams that want to keep it low. You don't have a right to charter fly. But the teams that can do it, like that to me is the thing that makes sense. But
I could just see him open it up with Gam and Tam. Like, it's there if you need it. Like, who was it this week or whatever was talking about a big turnaround and getting a flight delayed? Oh, it's a New York City-Vancouver game.
Yeah, it was Vancouver. New York City was in Vancouver.
Vancouver was stuck in a spot where New York City was training longer in Vancouver before the game than Vancouver was. I could see that being one of those where the team goes, well, player readiness is worth more than signing somebody else with the Gam and Tam. And they go, that's one of those that, because of the short turnaround, because of the potential for weather or whatever else, or even coming up on it and seeing, hey, there's potential for some weather, we don't want to get stuck here. Let's go ahead and charter the flight out of some Gam and Tam and use it and be done. And I could see leaving that option open for the teams being a good middle ground.
I don't like that because I think we need more investment in the rosters now. And I don't want incentives to not be investors. Like, I want incentives to be investing in getting better. I don't. And I mean, I think for the most part, I think you're going to say, well, I'd rather just have a deeper swath and be able to rotate and deal average flights than to spend more.
No, and I get that, but I could just still see him opening it up just in case for those weird, there's a snowstorm going to hit New York and we want to get out beforehand and don't want to wait for a public flight.
But can you do that? You know what I mean? Like, can you plan for that? Like, because you've done your spent your money, you're then going to have to put aside some Gam and Tam in case you want charter flight. Like, charter flights is not something you normally do on a whim. I mean, there have been instances where, like, delays and then they've done it in order to get there on time. Like, I think that happened to Montreal with DC earlier this year. And it happened a few times. I think it happened to the Reds with one of their games. Maybe to Orlando. But I mean, that's the thing. You just don't need players bitching about charter travel on Twitter. It's just one of those things that makes the league look really bad and really good. That's why I think the league is going to really open it up, because the league is tired of really people complaining. I think they are allowed to charter in playoffs. Christian, I don't think that rule applies to CCL in playoffs. I could be wrong. I think you can charter, which I think is one of the reasons why the playoffs you don't see as much of the home away, because they're able to charter, and it takes away a lot of the advantage. Which, if we're being honest, is why this system has been allowed to take place. It's for MLS to boost home attendance by having the home team win more because the away travel is that shit. Yeah, I know Tim Parr. A lot of people have been putting. I mean, it seems like every week we find a new travel story from some player. The MLSFI has done a really good job making sure that information, and making sure the players are like, hey, if you have shitty travel, tweet about it. Yeah, but like, I don't know that New York City played, like, got a chart on that Vancouver thing this week. I think they just went early. I don't know if they had a charter. But Vancouver could have used a charter to get back, because Vancouver then didn't get back until like mid-Thursday because they had problems.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, New York City planned ahead without having the second game, but Vancouver got screwed hard by the travel schedule and a couple of unforeseen delays.
And that's the thing, you don't have travel issues, or you don't have as many travel issues, because you're in control of the plane. So as long as your plane is mechanically okay, you're good. You don't have to deal with, connections and all this other. And I mean, you have more days to recover. You can just leave right from the. I mean, when you're trying to attract better players, I'm sort of amazed that they were able to get the star players that they did flying commercial. This is many years.
I want to see Zlatan fly commercial.
I mean, really? Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Zlatan had his own private jet and he's like, yeah, team can travel commercial, I'll meet you there, and that's the way it is.
Isn't that technically illegal? I mean, I don't know if anyone enforces it. Because it's the Galaxy. So I don't know if you ever enforce against the Galaxy.
I mean, players can be excused from team activities for whatever. I mean, they have a baby, they have, family issues or whatever. Zlatan is Zlatan. Zlatan has a private plane. If he named it My Baby, he's going to go spend time with his baby and...
But I thought they made backup.
You cut out there.
I thought they had made some sort of rule against that with starting with backup. I don't know. I mean, I know, like, down via travel. Come on. I mean, Via's not a prima donna, it's Zlatan.
I was going to say, yes, Via seemed a little more agreeable to things and a little more team-focused.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, I think Rooney loves flying commercial because he wants to just potentially get in fights with whoever he comes across sometime.
I think Rooney likes to fly commercials so he can hit on the flight attendants. Oh yeah, did you see them getting mad about some story about him hooking up with a girl and think?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he called out the Sun. Like, she just wanted an autograph. She didn't come back to my hotel room. I just signed an autograph. Like, I mean, it is the Sun, so you could be right, but you also kind of have a reputation at this. I think is why his wife wants to get him back to England, so flanked by photographers 24/7.
For the good of his marriage, that's why he's leaving ML.
Yes, he did get drunk at a plane. Although I'll actually defend Rudy on that. He got tipsy and he got busted at customs. I think he got like a mystery.
Now they're talking about Elon and everything and getting all this for that. Why doesn't MLS just go after a plane sponsor? Like, get one of the airlines to sponsor them or something.
We do have an airline sponsor. It is Etihad Airways. Don't you forget it.
Do they fly in the U.S.?
Yeah, they fly in the U.S. I mean, I don't know how many connecting flights they have in the U.S. I mean, I know they at least fly from New York to Abu. Where else they fly, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, if you can't get from New York to L.A. on Etihad, it doesn't really count.
I mean, I would imagine that's how you get from. Maybe they have a direct flight from Abu Dhabi to LA. I don't know if they have to cross, but I would imagine. Maybe they have a partner airline that. Who knows?
Good about Alaska Airlines with Portland.
That's true.
Well, it sounded like to me that maybe we're winding down, since we're talking about Rooney's drunken escapades and the future of airline sponsorships for Major League Soccer. So I want to say thanks for these guys for taking care of the show when I had to step out tonight. And thank you so much for everybody who tuned in to listen. I'll get this edited for those out in the podcast land. And we'll be back again next week. So, guys have anything final to say before we sign off?
No, have a good one. Enjoy the international game.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night and good luck.